Key players for the Buccaneers are out or are game time decisions. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this live Friday episode of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow along on Twitter. I am James Yarcho at @JYarcho_Bucs. The show is at Locked On Bucs, and I am here with you 5 days a week along with the everydayers. And for that, I want to share my appreciation for your continued support of the show. One of the ways you can support the show is become a Locked On Bucs insider. You're going to get news, rumors, updates, general thoughts, one-on-one conversations with me via text message. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs to become an insider today. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Keys to victory and predictions coming up in a little bit, but let's start with the injury news. And of course, there's some bad news, as there has been all season long with the Buccaneers and the injuries. Antoine Winfield Jr., Mike Edwards, KJ Britt, all officially out for Sunday's game against the Chargers. Bucky Irving and Christian Izien are game time decisions, according to Todd Bowles. While the two are listed as questionable, Bowles told the media on Friday that they'll see how the two are feeling closer to the game and may have to work them out prior to the game to see if they will be able to go. Bowles also said that running back DJ Williams will be elevated from the practice squad in the event that Bucky can't play. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on over the weekend. This is a problem for the Bucs for sure. This was already going to be a tough enough game, but the Bucs are potentially going to be relegated to starting Kayvon Merriweather and Ryan Neal at safety on Sunday. Justin Herbert will absolutely feast. That's nothing against Merriweather. He was really good last week, but there's a reason that the Bucs went out and signed Jordan Whitehead to replace Ryan Neal, and it's because he wasn't good. And now that's kind of what they are stuck with. The secondary is already as thin as paper, and now you're talking about your top four safeties not being on the field, on the road, in this game while the Bucs are fighting for another division crown. All that ground that they just made up is hanging on a razor's edge with the Falcons facing the Raiders on Monday night. The Bucs could fall right back into second place after this week and would no longer be in control of their own destiny. That is a problem. Right now, the Bucs are in the driver's seat. They win, they're in. That's how this is going to go. They lose this game and the Falcons get a win on Monday night. All of a sudden, they're looking for help again. Tyke Smith being back is huge because he's still your starting nickel, and he had another big game last week. Bowles already said that they are not going to ask Tyke to play both safety and nickel in this game, but that he could potentially move him to safety if they needed him to. So basically that means they're not going to line Tyke up at nickel corner on one play, then back at safety on another play and have him bouncing back and forth. But in an emergency situation, they could move him from nickel to safety for the remainder of the game. To me, that is a terrible idea. Do not take one of your better defensive players out of the position where he's excelling. If you're going to fail at safety, then you're going to fail. And it's because of injuries. It's not because of coaching. It's not because of scheme. It's flat out because of injuries. Don't weaken another position on the field just to try to compensate for what you're lacking at safety. Leave your strong players in a position to succeed. The Bucs could elevate Rashad Wisdom or Marcus Banks in addition to Ryan Neal this week from the practice squad to at least have one extra safety ready to roll, since it's apparently impossible for them to get through a game without a safety getting hurt since coming back from the bye week. But this is a really tough situation for the Bucs right now. These injuries are out of control. And if the Bucs end up missing the playoffs, if they end up losing this game, I know injuries aren't an excuse, but at some point you just have to shake your head and know that it has become way too much to overcome all of the injuries on this football team. As for Bucky, I'm not really sure what to think here. We know that he's a gamer. He wants to be out there to help the team win. But at the same time, if the Bucs do go on to make the playoffs, if they do go on to win the NFC South yet again, then he needs to be as healthy as possible to help this team win in the postseason. That's what's more important. The Bucs can get by in this game with Rachaad White and Sean Tucker taking the bulk of the carries. Yes, those two lack the same levels of explosiveness and elusiveness, but they're good running backs. The Chargers are allowing 4.6 yards per carry this season, which is tied for the fifth most in the league. You can get them in the run game, and Rachaad looked great last week. Tucker had a big run to set up a touchdown. So while we would all love to see Bucky Irving out there on the field doing Bucky Irving things, it's better to give him the week off if he needs it to help get that hip and that back in shape, get him on the right track, because it's more important that he's available in January than he is this weekend in Los Angeles. The injury report was 19 players long for just the Buccaneers, so I'm not going to go through the entire thing. But the other players listed as questionable are Josh Hayes, J.J. Russell, who was upgraded to a full participant on Friday. That's good news for sure. Then wide receiver Sterling Shepard and Joe Tryon Shoyinka. As for the Chargers, Herbert missed practice early in the week. He's good to go. He was a full participant. He was removed from the injury report on Friday. He is a go. As for the rest of the team, tight end Will Disley and wide receiver Jalen Reagor are both out, while wide receiver Ladd McConkey and linebacker Denzel Perryman are both questionable. Ladd McConkey was questionable last week, did not play. So another thing to keep an eye on. You want to see the Bucs keep rolling and get another win, no matter how ugly it is or how stressful watching it is going to be. But if they're going to lose one of these games coming out of the bye week, this is the one to lose. It's an AFC opponent. It's on the road. You're banged up. And the Chargers are also fighting for the postseason. So this isn't some slouch that you're going to waste a loss on, like if you had lost to the Raiders, if you had lost to the Giants. I talked about it repeatedly. The Bucs had to win 6 of their final 7 games. They've won 3, so they need to win 3 of their last 4. They still have the Cowboys, the Panthers again. That's going to be a tough game because the Panthers are rolling. They may not be winning, but they are giving good teams everything they want and more. And then you have the Saints. Back-to-back road games. You're at LA, you're at Dallas before ending the season with back-to-back divisional games at home. This is the one that the Bucs can afford to drop. You don't want them to, of course, but they can't. The NFC games, the division games, they mean more. If the Bucs drop out of the division lead, there'll be a game behind the Rams and potentially 2 games behind the Commanders in the wild card race. So the best route is still winning the division, but that NFC record is going to come into play. They have a head-to-head tiebreaker over the Commanders, and then the Rams are 5-5 in the conference. The Bucs are 6-3. The Bucs have the best conference record outside of Detroit, Minnesota, and Philly, and none of those teams are going to be in a tiebreaker situation with Tampa. Those last 3 games on the Bucs schedule matter the most. The Bucs' lives will be a lot easier if they beat the Chargers, but this thing isn't over if they don't. Just keep that in mind heading into the weekend. Want to jump into the chat real quick. Danny says, do you see elevating Deion Jones from the practice squad? Our linebackers are as depleted as the safeties. I do not. I do not expect Deion Jones to get elevated this week. I think it's just too soon for him to understand all the responsibilities that he's going to have in this defense. J.J. Russell being questionable, being a full participant in practice on Friday is huge, because if J.J. Russell can go, then you still have Vi Jones there as an option as a backup. But getting one of those two linebackers back between JJ and KJ would be huge. So no, I think it's too soon for Deion Jones, but I do think he is going to play a role on this team the later we get into the regular season and then potentially in the postseason. Bantry says, whoever dominates the line of scrimmage will win. Well, it's funny that you say that, Bantry, because coming up, I take a look at the biggest key on each side of the ball. That is next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports, because unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy so that your lineups stay in play even if one of your players leaves in the first half and doesn't return. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I get my money in as quickly as 15 minutes. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL, all one word, all lowercase, to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You do not need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NFL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every day. The new Locked On NFL is here, and it's 2 shows every day. You got the Madman Tyler Rowland kicking off your morning. Then you can swing by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins. Add in the Locked On local experts. You get unprecedented NFL insight, hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make it your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Benjamin in the chat says, by the way, it's my birthday this Sunday. And so far, every time the Bucs play on my birthday, they have been 7-7, including a Michael Spurlock kickoff return for a touchdown. Benjamin, happy birthday, buddy. I hope the Bucs give you a win on your day. That would be probably the best present of all. And then Zoe in the chat jumped in a little bit late, says, is Deion Jones going to be straight beside David this week? I touched on that right before you jumped in. Deion Jones, I highly doubt is going to be elevated from the practice squad this week. Just too much to learn in this defense. He's only been here for a week. I think he will see playing time for the Bucs this season, just not this week against the Chargers. But let's talk about these keys to the game. On offense, make this game painfully boring. Drag this game out as much as you can. Run the ball over and over and over and over. Throw when you have to, but eat away at those 4.6 yards per carry that the Chargers are allowing this season. Over the last 3 weeks, the Bucs are averaging 5.6 yards per carry. Over the same span, the Chargers are allowing 4.28 yards per carry. So a little under their season average over the last 3 weeks. But the Chargers are 1-2 over those 3 games. They held the Chiefs to under 100 yards, which affected that average. The Falcons had 116 on the ground against them. The Ravens had 212 on the ground against them. But the Chargers have been losing in spite of slight improvement over their yards per carry allowed this season. With the Bucs defense as beat up as it is, and the safeties being incredibly suspect against a quarterback like Justin Herbert, the Bucs have to absolutely dominate time of possession. I am talking nearly 40 minutes at the minimum. Extended scoring drives that take up 12 or 14 plays that eat up 8 or 9 minutes. And you'll do that with the run game and the short passing game. Everyone loves to see the explosive plays and the big passes downfield, but that's not what the Bucs need to do this week. They need to continuously wear down that defense with lots of runs and lots of time on the field. It allows the Bucs to keep their strength out on the field longer while wearing down the strength of the Chargers. I know you don't want to hear this, especially I think it was Daytona Dad that just said something about it. I don't want to say it. You're not going to want to hear it, but this game could put the nail in the Mike Evans streak coffin. This isn't a game where Baker is going to throw for 280 and 3 touchdowns and give Evans a dozen targets and get him up over 100 yards. It isn't. The Chargers are built to stop that. They don't want that to happen. That's how they are built. And yeah, Evans could turn around and pop off for 200 against the Cowboys and be right back on track. But hyper-targeting Evans in this game to help him towards the streak is actually going to hurt the Bucs in this game. You need that offensive line to take care of business. You need Rashad and Tuck to take care of business. You need Evans and Cade Otton to move the sticks on third down and then get right back to pounding the rock. Look, we all want to see Evans hit 1,000 yards. But I think Mike Evans would rather win this game and keep moving towards another division crown than hit 1,000 yards this season. I know it's going to be tough, and I still hope that he hits it, but this has to be a slow and painful process for the Bucs offense to just drag this game out. Keep your strength on the field, keep your weakness on the sideline. Defensively, just don't blow it. Don't make stupid mistakes and blow coverages that lead to explosive plays. This defense is going to make you want to rip your hair out all afternoon. If they're going to win, it's going to be because they look like they did in Detroit. And they're going to allow the Chargers to move up and down the field, but then hold them to field goals when they get in the red zone. The X factor in this one is going to be Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. You heard Daniel mention it on the crossover on yesterday's show. If you didn't hear that, please go back and check it out. Had a blast talking with Locked On Chargers host Daniel over there. But the interior of the Chargers offensive line is incredibly vulnerable, and they are going to have problems blocking Vita Vea. Herbert has been sacked 35 times this season. That's the most he's ever been sacked in a season in his career, and there's still 4 games left. So the pass rush can get to him and disrupt some things. But it's going to hinge on the dynamic duo up front of Vita Vea and Kalijah Kancey. How much chaos can Vea cause to allow other guys to make plays? I expect Levante David to get in the backfield on a couple blitzes like we saw against the Raiders. But I would also expect some stunts and some creativity to get Kancey into the inside to take advantage of a weak interior offensive line. Maybe Vea's setting some things up for great gains. Maybe Logan Hall can come out of witness protection because I was pumping that dude's tires back in September. Have not heard a peep from him in like 2 months. Diaby's going to have some chances. Hopefully Joe Tryon-Shoyinka gets back on the field. He's questionable this week, but this one is mostly about the secondary. The corners have to do their jobs and hope that the safeties don't completely choke this one away. A really good way to make sure that that doesn't happen is make sure that your pass rush is getting in Justin Herbert's face all day long. That starts with big number 50 right there in the middle. Going to jump into the chat again real quick. We got Ernie in the chat says the Chargers are the number 1 red zone defense. Yeah, points are not going to be easy to come by. Not at all. The Chargers defense is fantastic. They average 15.7 points allowed per game. So as I mentioned, I can't remember if it was on the crossover, if it was on another show. To me, the first 1 to 21 is going to win this game. It's going to be a tough one for sure. Let's see. We got Danny in the chat says, our DBs need to catch the ball. I still think Zion got an interception last week. I think that was a bad overturn. I really do. That should have been Zion's third interception of the season. Instead, it was overturned on replay. But you know what? Even if they're not catching the ball, we would love to see more takeaways. The Chargers do not turn the ball over. But even if we don't see any takeaways, batting the ball down on third down, I'll take it. I'll take it in this one. You know, if the DBs are batting balls down and coming away with passes defensed, you know what that means? That means they're not giving up big plays. They're not giving up points. So I'll take what I can get in this one. It is prediction time. Coming up next, drop your score predictions, your bowl predictions, your player predictions in the chat. All of that's coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Bucs. Ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. The Buccaneers are 3-point road underdogs to the Los Angeles Chargers with an over-under of 45.5. Meanwhile, they are now the favorites to win the NFC South at minus 230, while the Falcons have dropped to plus 185. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Wrapping things up here on a live preview edition of the Locked On Bucs podcast. I see some of you guys dropping your predictions in the chat. Going to get to those in a minute. Remember, drop your players, your bolds, your scores. I'll get to as many of them as I can. Let's start this one off with my predictive player of the game, and it's the guy I just talked about, big number 50, Vita Vea. If the Bucs are going to win this game, someone on the defense is going to have to step up and make plays. Vita Vea is primed to do exactly that in this matchup, and the Bucs are going to need him. Whether he's getting sacks or disrupting Herbert or blowing up running lanes or paving the way for one of his teammates to go in and make a play, Vita has to be the driving force in this one. His play will open up things for guys like Levante David. You might see him open up things for Tyke Smith. He might open up something for Kalijah Cansey, like I mentioned, being able to get to the inside and take advantage of a weak interior. And those guys are going to come away with the stats and the glory and the replays and all of that. But watch Vita Vea. Watch what he does to get those big plays started. Because I promise you, if there is a big play in the backfield, Vita Vea played a hand in it. The Bucs have to win in the trenches, and Vita Vea is the most crucial element in getting that done. My bold prediction for this one, Baker is going to get back on track. This one is simple. Baker Mayfield does not turn the ball over. The Chargers are one of the better defenses in the league, and they thrive on winning the turnover battle. Their offense does not turn the ball over, so Baker has to get on track in this game. He has already surpassed last season's interception mark while tying last season's touchdown mark. But last year, he had 2 different 4-game streaks with an interception. Did you catch all that? So 2 different times last year, he had 4 games in a row where he threw an interception. This year, he has none. But the difference between this year and last year is in both of those 4-game streaks last year, so 8 games in total, he only had 1 interception in each of those games. He has interceptions in 7 games this year. 5 of those 7, he's had multiple interceptions. That's where the difference is. Only 2 games this year where he has 1 interception compared to 8 last year where he had only 1. If the Bucs listen to me and make this a very run-heavy offense with short to intermediate passes to move the sticks, Baker is going to do just fine. He's going to keep the clock and the drives moving. My concern is if he turns the ball over once, he's going to start pressing like we've seen over the last couple of weeks. He's going to start trying to force plays. He's going to start trying to force the offense to get out of a funk, and that's when even more mistakes pile up. Can't afford to do that against the Chargers. They will eat you alive. Score predictions. Evan Klosky has made a change on Wednesday. Evan said that the Chargers were going to win this one 27-20. He has now changed, and he says the Chargers win this one 24-22. So the Bucs cover, but the Chargers snap their skid of 11 straight losses in games decided by 3 points or less. So change the score, not the outcome. I hate to say it, but I'm with Evan on this one. I see this being a really close game. I just don't think the Bucs get the win on the road. I think the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, the injury to Bucky, all of that is going to play a factor, and I'm taking the Chargers to win this one 23-21. So I have the Bucs covering, just not winning. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. We've got Benjamin. Benjamin is predicting a bad birthday. Chargers will sadly dominate 35-17. We got Ernie in the chat. Says 13-10 Bucs. Benjamin's bold prediction is Tyke Smith gets another interception. Tyke Smith, only corner. Let me start over. Only rookie corner in the NFL this season to have 3 or more games with a PFF grade of 85 or higher, and he's missed 4 games. Think about that. What a steal for the Buccaneers. Bry in the chat says, I see 21-17 score, but honestly could be either team with the 21. Benjamin also says Diaby gets 2 sacks. We've got Richard in the chat. Bold prediction. Levante has a sack, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery with 10 tackles. A nice little hat trick. I like that, Richard. Enjoying that. Narav says Ravens and Bengals put up 30 and 27. Their defensive stats might be skewed due to the opponents that they faced. I think we can move the ball on them. That's a great point, Narav. It really is. But, you know, we have a pretty large sample size at this point. That's one of those things where you're going to have to believe it if you see it, if the Chargers defense folds up against the Bucs. Pat says 31-12 Bucs. That's huge. Richard says Bucs 23-20. And then Michael in the chat says Bucs win 27-21. Last comment that I will get to here. Bry says, I think even if we lose, the Falcons still have the Commanders and Panthers as losses, and we still keep the division in the end. I do think that the Falcons lose to the Commanders. I'm not sure. Yeah, I was on a podcast yesterday for Our Lads, and the host of that show said that he has the Falcons losing to the Raiders on Monday night in Vegas. Are we going to see the return of that iffy primetime Kirk Cousins? I don't know. The Raiders played the Bucs pretty tough. You have the Desmond Ridder revenge game storyline. I don't know if the Raiders offense is going to have enough juice to get that one done, but sure would help the Bucs a lot if the Raiders were to win that game. But that is going to do it for this episode. Richard in the chat says, let's go Ridder, beat Atlanta. Hey, Desmond Ridder, University of Cincinnati. My sister went there. My niece went there. Love the UC Bearcats because why not? But that is going to do it for this episode. Please check out everything going on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at @Yarcho_Bucs. Make sure you are following on YouTube with the notifications turned on so you will know when I go live after the game on Sunday with my immediate reaction. And of course, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Become a Locked On Bucs insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnBucs. No ads or hashtags or anything like that. Just one-on-one text conversations with me. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Want to thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.